Hello everyone, welcome to chapter 96 on my RLDR Custom Creations YouTube channel. It is the weekend edition once again, and the weather outside is getting colder. But I'm in my favorite spot. The temperature's great 20 degrees Celsius in here, and I'm going to be working with one of my favorite tools today. So, if you want to see what I'm going to do on this today, all you have to do is stay tuned. Well, as I said, it's the weekend edition again, and it is getting a little cooler outside, so perfect place to be in the shop today. Got a late start out here this morning. Was trying to get some issues solved on my computer in the house, so of course that didn't go as it should, but we got a little bit of progress, not all of it, but anyway, I'll go back to that. I had a wonderful afternoon. One of my former students who started a wonderful acoustic guitar when she was in high school, came out for a visit today, brought her unfinished guitar with her, and we're going to finish that thing in the new year. So I'll see if I can bring you along on some of those afternoons, because it's going to be fun. That I'm looking forward to. And then I had the regular coffee group down for afternoon coffee, which usually stretches from about 3:30, 3 o'clock, today till about 6, a little bit longer than usual, but not much. So anyway, one of the fellows that came for coffee today brought me 2 bags of little 2x4 blocks like this. On average, these things are about 3.5 by 1.5 inches square. And when he asked me if I wanted stuff like that, I should have just said no, because I've got too much wood here that I'll probably never use. But I thought, you know what, for kids, that'd be a great thing to turn. They could make little things. But as I thought of that, I realized for new turners, little things aren't that easy. So last time, my grade 7s, of course, they're finished their modified Intarsia projects. Excuse me, I'm fighting a cold today. And we only have Tuesday and Wednesday next week, and then classes are done for us. That group is done, and I'll start with new groups in February. But my grade 7s are in good shape. They finished their modified Intarsia a bit early, so we went back to the lathes like we had planned to do earlier in the school year. So while they were turning, and for new students, our local birch works really good. It's just a little tougher than this stuff is, and if I can find it from my normal suppliers, it's relatively cheap. So that is a good wood to learn on. It's tough enough. It holds shape well. You can do details in it. It's nice to turn. There are better woods, I'm sure, but for what we have in Saskatchewan, that birch is about as good as it gets. So I only have a couple students in that section. While they're turning, I dragged up a lathe kind of next to them so I could watch what they were doing, and then I put little pieces like this in the lathe, and I spun some things on my own. So out of these little pieces, I made a few Christmas ornaments. A little nutcracker, and they do have a little hook in them already, so there's a little nutcracker. Not a very nicely shaped little Christmas tree bulb, but it worked. And then I played a little bit with trying to do a bit of a finial, which it kind of worked. And then I thought, well, okay, I'm going to do a little bell. And the bell, when I was turning these things, all of a sudden the lights went on, and realized that often wood ornaments for Christmas trees get way too heavy, especially ornaments done by relatively new turners. They're just not quite at the place yet where they realize that the Christmas tree can only withstand so much weight. And when you put ornaments on that the branches hang down like that, it's too much. These are really, really light and they're nice and small. Now, they should be painted. I would say that this is a painting ornament. But that being said, it's nice to have color on a Christmas tree too. So you could maybe put some stain on here or even just put some wipe on poly or something. And they'd look just fine too. But painting would, especially this little guy here, he needs a coat of paint. Okay, so I thought, well, that might be a good skill building video to shoot because working with not always the best materials, I think it forces you sometimes to learn to turn a little smoother and a little gentler, which I think is probably, in my view, the key to success with turning, as that's a critical factor for when you're doing finishing cuts, when you're shaping things. A nice, confident but gentle touch is so good to see. When I see young turners turning that way, I get excited because I know that they're going to be awesome turners someday if they can manage to keep this up. The other reason I wanted to shoot this little video with this cheap wood or free wood is the fact that I'm a firm believer that wood turning does not have to be that expensive for you to get into, but it can be. And maybe one thing, and that's another reason I'm doing what I'm doing today, I'm not going to be at my big Laguna lathe. Okay, that's mine. I think I've earned it. But do you need it? Do I need that lathe? No, I don't. Most of the things I could turn on this little jet, or I have other deltas like this too, the same size. I have a well, it's a General International, but they're no longer in existence. But they're MIDI lathe, so it's electronic variable speed, and it's a little bigger than this, a little heavier, so that's a little step up. But if I was turning small things between centers, which I think most people will start with, because all turning tools are expensive. And if you went out and spent $10,000 on a lathe, and then you spent, because one chuck is never enough, let's say you spend 2,000 on some chucks and jaws and spend about the same on tools, this hobby becomes out of reach for a lot of people, especially if you're just thinking of it and you want to get started. Now, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of carbide tools and all that stuff, but I'm not a carbide tool user, but I do think that they have a place in this craft. And if you're learning how to turn and you don't want to invest $1,000 in your sharpening system, which is more money you can spend, yeah, use carbide. Yeah, but the key is to get a small lathe and get started. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to turn this little bell out of one of those little blocks. And I'm going to try to do it all in real time. Hopefully things will work out. And that way you can see that this didn't take long. I don't have a lot of equipment or a lot of money invested in equipment. I have no money invested in the wood. The only thing I'm going to cheat a little bit. I do have tools in each of these lathes, but they're Benjamin's Best. And I think the P&Ns are a bit better. So I'm going to use my P&N tools to do this, but I've turned a lot of stuff with Benjamin's Best, and they're not a one-way or any of those high-end tools, but they're not bad. You have to sharpen more. And the one thing I don't have any sharpened into a detail gouge shape. So getting into these little areas is more problematic. And since it's later in the evening and I have a cold, I'm going to cheat today. So anyway, I will bring you back, and the next thing you see will be a little piece of spruce spinning between the centers of this lathe. And we're at the lathe. The piece is in, it's locked securely. I spun it by hand, and it's time to get started. So here we go. And I lied a little bit. I was going to use my P&N tools, but I couldn't find my spindle roughing gouge. So here we are with Benjamin's Best, and we're just going to gently make this smooth. Okay, are we there? Yep, that's round. Okay, now we're going to move on. One of the things I like to do, and I recommend it to all my new turners, is to kind of define the waste areas and then your active area where the piece is going to come out of. Okay, let's do that. And I'm just going to guesstimate. I'm going to say about there. This spruce doesn't like the parting tool as much. You get the tip a little too low, it just kind of bungles up. Just going to take a look and see. Of course, now the sample is gone. Oh, there it is. Just want to see about how long. Yeah, yep, okay, that's good. Another skill that's important for students and adult turners alike to have is the ability to, what I refer to as transposing on the move. Like if you're turning an object that's this big, but your piece of wood is this big, how do you preserve the proportions and make it fit? So that's what I like to teach as well. So now I'm going to switch to what I like for this project is my 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch detail gouges. So we're going to go with that at first, and away we go again. So I'm going to make a plunge cut into the side here and try to get that bottom. The thing I like about this gouge is how you can get into things. Like I can get right into there, which I really like. Okay, well, I'm going to use this for doing some roughing anyway, so I try to get the gentle shape of that bell. I think that, see, the proportions look a little different to me now. Yeah, look at that. I can get so nicely in there. I am rubbing the bevel, even though it doesn't maybe look like I am. That's a little long, but I'm just going to go with it. I can always fine-tune that a little bit at the end. And as you turn a little bit more, you develop an eye for things, which I think is important. I'm going to switch now to my 1/4 inch version of that. And when I was turning, while the kids were turning this last Wednesday, oops, so you got to watch that. I really fell in love with this thing again. Like I could get in and do really, really little cuts. And I like that. Yes, this is possible to turn this with one tool, but it's much nicer to have a bit of a selection. And maybe that's another video to shoot at some point, what tools I would consider to be the essential tools for turning. The nice thing about these things is they don't take long to turn. And And another thing that I'm ultra thankful that I have taught myself to do is turn left-handed. If you haven't done that yet with your own turning ability, work on it. It's nice to be able to flip the gouge around. But I don't know if you can notice it from on the camera, but I am taking very, very small, light, gentle cuts. This is spinning at about 1,000 RPM, and some would argue that that's too low, but I've talked about speed already in another video, so I'm not going to go over it again in this one. But my feeling is that if you are learning to turn, go at a speed that you are comfortable with. Okay, so I'm pretty much finished this one. I'm just going to run a little bit of sandpaper over it. Could I have done a little bit better on the shape? How's it look on camera? It's not too bad. I could have maybe gone a little more in, but I think you get the idea here. And again, I want to be fairly gentle when I sand. I don't want to be pulling on the paper and reefing on it. But these are nice, and in a way it reminds me of turning a top. Like if you had really small kids out in the shop, like when friends of mine turn tops, the common challenge is to spin one of the tops you've just turned and turn another top and finish it before it stops spinning. And if you have a bunch of little ones in the shop, you could turn these bells and you could keep them busy painting. Be awesome. Okay. So I thought, yeah, we could sand more, but I'm not going to. You've seen that. So what I'm going to do is, like you'll notice I don't have a chuck here. So I have to part both ends. And I'm just going to do that with this 1/4 inch spindle gouge, or sorry, detail gouge. And I'm just going to cut this end. I'm going to go back and forth a little bit till I have very little left. And then I'm going to part probably this end off. And then I'm just going to take, and the other end I'll either cut it off or whatever, sand it a bit, and put an eyelet in there, and then we're done. So I'm going to quickly part this, and see again, I'm left-handed. I don't know if you can see that. Like deliberate movements, like gently putting the bevel onto the wood on the side here, like I'm doing here too, just gently. There, that's pretty small already. I think that'll be okay. And if you listen, you can always hear when you're getting down to nothing because the lathe will change sound. So anyway, I think that's it. I'm going to take it out, and the next time you see me, we'll be wrapping up this video. Well, there you have it. We finished that, and I did that all in real time. Not going to speed up or do any editing because that's what I'm good at, no editing. But, and again, it's another, these learning things are so cool. Maybe if I wouldn't have been doing it for the camera, like I like this shape better than this shape. This is the one I just turned. This is the one I turned a couple days ago. And this has a nicer bell shape to me. This one, if this one wasn't here, this one might actually look not too bad. But it's too long. It's not sculptured enough. It's too sharp at the top. There are some things I could have done better. But you know what? If I don't like it, I throw it away. It costs me nothing. So as far as practice goes, using cheap wood, stuff that you wouldn't normally turn with, like a spruce or, pine. I don't like turning much with pine either. Like some of the softer softwoods that we have in Saskatchewan here, they don't turn the best. But in certain situations, they can be really good to practice with. So I hope that you got something out of this video today. I guess what I was trying to get across to you today was, number one, turning doesn't have to be expensive. Number two, you can build your skills using inexpensive wood. And three, which I didn't talk about too much, excuse me, is have fun. If you're not having fun, chances are you're not going to be turning long. So make it so that if you're a retired old guy like me, you can come out into your shop, and even if it's in your 2-car garage or single-car garage, and you gotta back the car out, and you gotta wheel the lathe out, do it. Take a Sunday afternoon, spend some time turning instead of watching YouTube. Unless you're watching this channel, of course. Then please remember to like and subscribe and share. That'd be great. But turning is a wonderful hobby, and I like teaching it to young kids because it teaches so many skills to them too. It teaches hand-eye coordination. It teaches gentle, subtle movement. It teaches proportion, all kinds of good things that yeah, maybe they can be learned other ways, but this is probably one of the cheaper ways to do it well. So with that in mind, everybody, have a great week ahead. We're getting closer to Christmas, and so I'll probably put out another video, hopefully Wednesday or Thursday, and then there's a weekend edition, and then another week, and then a weekend, and then it's Christmas. So I'm on track to hit the 100 video mark by Christmas. So anyway, with that being said, I'm tired of working on Saturday evening. I'm going to go in and watch some of that important YouTube stuff, and hopefully this video finds you healthy and happy, successful and prosperous. Take care.